What's going on, everybody? I'm Shamarcus, and this is Shamarcus Talks. And on this episode, we have the amazing Evan Hughes, everyone. The funny thing about it is, y'all know I am spotting like entrepreneurs that are doing it now, right? People that are doing something that I'm like, maybe somebody else wants to know how to do this. So my whole thing is to spotlight those people, bring those people to you, and let them tell you about themselves. They're going to tell you their ups, their downs. They're going to tell you how they got started. They're going to probably give you a couple tips and tricks about doing whatever it is that he or she is doing, so you won't have to make the same mistakes that they did. Oh my God. So on today's podcast, we have the amazing Evan Hughes. How you doing, Evan?
Shamarcus, I'm doing good. How are you?
Man, the people, they're gonna wonder why I said your name like that, and I'm gonna tell them. So prior to starting this recording, I was calling him his brothers and his dad name, and he was like, "Shamark, you know what? I'm going to correct you." Now, mind you, we've been knowing each other for a couple months, right?
Yes.
We've known each other for a couple months, and it's like it's his name and his dad. I mean, I'm sorry, his dad's name and his brother's name are all the same. And it's like, oh my God, when I first started, it was like I was calling him the wrong name. He said, I'm going to correct you. I'm like, that's so amazing. So
It's not the first time it's happened.
that is not the first time. So Evan, tell me a little about a bit more about yourself and how you get where you are right now. Because I know the people want to know. And again, I know you can tell the people more about yourself than I can.
Sure. So, my name is Evan Hughes. I have been in tech and around technology ever since I was a kid. I gained a love of flight from, well, really, it's in my blood. My dad was uh, Army Airborne Ranger. My grandfather served in the Army Air Corps during World War II. As far back as I can remember, I even had my little metal die cast F-14 Tomcat that I used to play with when I was a little kid. My dad went on to work at NASA at a certain point, and so I was always with a love of flight as I was growing up. When I was when I was about 9 years old, I actually started learning code through video games through something that my brother showed me on the computer. And by the time I was 11, I was actually doing beta testing for major video game companies, though they didn't know I was 11 years old. I could speak the language and talk the talk, and so they had no idea over the internet that an 11-year-old was testing their product. By the time I was 14, I was doing more advanced things and actually were doing projects independently, and furthermore into today, I still get invitations to beta test different video games. But that path also took me down the path of a little bit towards code as well as server administration. And so I have a background in IT as well. I've worked in IT. But along that path, I've also worked with my dad, who, as I mentioned, worked at NASA, but he has also had a background in film production in television. And I actually spent about a decade in media and production. And I like to tease people and tell them I've done everything in regards to film and production except for hair and makeup. I've done acting, I've done stage plays, I've done stage hand, I've done stage grip, I've I've been the cameraman, I've been the key grip, I've been the producer, the director, the editor, post production editor. I've done everything in regards to production. And that being said, as I got older, and that love for flight kind of kept kicking me in the backside. And as we well know, drones start becoming more of a technology that is readily available. And I flew some of them earlier. Look, I'm laughing already. I flew some of the earlier drones because, and I'm laughing because my first one almost flew into the freeway because it flew away on me. So we have come a long way since that technology. But yeah, I flew some of the earlier drones, and I've stuck with the technology as the industry has advanced. I just decided to take the plunge and get my Part 107 drone pilot license, and subsequently decided to start my drone business last year, and that's kind of where I am now.
Oh man, you said a whole mouthful, man. People need to rewind that and listen. Like you started one way but ended up another way. Like a
Yes.
lot of entrepreneurs don't understand that that's what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like you're going to start
Yeah.
in whatever field or whatever it is you're going to start in, and all that is going to do is just give you knowledge and wisdom and prepare you for wherever it is that you're really supposed to be in. And thank you for highlighting that because a lot of people really don't speak on just that. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I was actually working in commercial lending the most recently before moving into before starting my own business. But I appreciate that time that I spent in commercial lending because it's given me a perspective of not only business but also banking and how the commercial loan process works that I wouldn't have had any other kind of way. You know, no offense to anyone who has, any number of acronymed degrees, but there's certain stuff that they will not, cannot simply teach you in school regarding business and how the financial system actually works and how, in regards to how they actually score your business and what it takes to actually receive funding. But I learned that because I was actually in the commercial lending space. Um, and so, just right off the rip, a free nugget I would slide in there is
Absolutely.
whatever it is you're doing, don't forget to never stop learning because I was in commercial lending and I was also studying to become a certified drone pilot at the same time. Those two things have no intersecting points, from the employee standpoint. So that was truly a study of passion. Um, but at the same time, as the drone industry has continued to advance, I could see where business opportunities would exist, and so it kind of drove me to continue learning on the side of everything else that I was doing. And yes, it made for some very long days and some very long nights, um, but don't quit and don't stop on it.
Man, you said a whole bunch again. Man, did y'all see? This is why I talk to him. It's like we don't talk all the time like me and his dad does, but when I talk to him, I actually listen because he's going to give you a whole different perspective of whatever it is. Man, I've learned so much about him and all the stuff that he's done, like that will shock you. Because when you see him, you're not going to see all of these things at all whatsoever. I didn't. Well, I ain't gonna say you won't. I didn't. And after a while, it was like, really? And then this, and then this. Then we start talking about that. Then we start talking about that. And with all that stuff, my second question, because I don't ask too many questions. I let it all just flow. My second question are what are some challenges that you had that when you got started and what kept you from throwing in the towel? Because you and I both know whenever you get started on this path, all these gurus and all these other people are not going to tell you. You're going to have some challenges that's going to make you be like, bro, I don't even want to do this no more. I don't care if it's my
Sure.
passion or not. It's like that's the inevitable. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
what were some challenges that you had that, you know what, kept you going and made you not want and what did you do to not throw in the towel?
So, man, there's a lot that I could dig into there. Um, I don't know. How raw do you want it?
Hey, the thing is, the people are like, there's going to be some people, and I told you this earlier, when we first started the show. There's going to be some people that are going to watch this and going to really want to they really want to go in that direction, and they don't have a mentor, they don't have a guide, they don't have anything. They're just, I know I want to do this. I know somebody is talking about this. Let me go see,
Okay.
and this could probably help them change the way that they're looking at things. Because right now it's probably rough for them. They're probably in the beginning stages, and they like, oh my God, this is never going to happen. So go as real or as deep or as rough as you want to.
Okay. So, so I started my business last year, which was 2023, and I will be full real, full raw with it that that has been one of the most challenging years of my life, and also one of the most challenging processes of my life. So last year, when I started my business because the commercial lending department that I was working with was released from the company, and so everyone got let go. Um, and rather than you know putting my resume out there for a new job, I decided to take the plunge and start my business. And that is, as I said, I had already earned my Part 107 commercial drone pilot license while I was working. And so when I left my office, I literally started making phone calls on the drive home. Um, and if I can speak towards challenges that I faced in the early start, for one is a lot of people would think it's hearing no, but hearing nothing is a lot worse. Hearing no at least means you spoke and communicated to a human. You actually got to shoot your shot, per se. When you speak to no one because no one responded to you, no one heard you, you heard nothing back. It's the silence can be deafening, and it can be very hard, and what's the word I'm looking for? It can break your momentum. It can make you question whether or not what you're even doing, what if what you're doing is even correct. And I would say that is very well one of the biggest challenges was the silence. um, when you don't hear back from someone. The other part was keeping your head keeping yourself out of your thoughts, because let's be serious, y'all. um, Life can go crazy at times, and I don't know if you're a spiritual person, but it's something about when you take these big leaps of faith on what you feel like God has called you to do. um Especially if you read your Bible, it's pretty consistent. Craziness jumps off in your life. And so I had something else I would share in that. you know A, silence can be deafening. B, um the challenges that will come up can try to break you. No, I'm sorry, they will break you if you are not careful. um and so when I started my business, I had already just lost my job. And then literally, I think 2 weeks later, a friend was driving our family vehicle to take the kids to vacation Bible school, and we're in a car accident, totaled the vehicle. So we lost a family vehicle. Just months before that, and I'm gonna speak real here to all the men out there. We had just found out we had a miscarriage, and you know that has a whole bunch of mental implications in and of itself. So take care of your mental health, for real, people. For real, take care of your mental health. Um, and then you're just starting a brand new business, and this leads me into point C. Like they kind of say in the military, no plan survives first contact. And so you had a plan. Ooh, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that, and then you get silence and you get no responses and you get no's, and before you know it, you feel like your entire plan failed, and you're out here and what are you doing? And you have hungry children and a wife who expects things, and what are you doing? What are you doing? And you're left at this point. I was left at this point. I'm gonna make it personal. I was left at this point with not only the realization of feeling like I have failed in look, already failed in a brand new business, in a brand new industry, but also uh and I know this is, look, y'all, I have grown. This has been a whole growth arc for me, is knowing that I didn't fail my unborn child. And then on top of all that, failing to provide, because you're a, I don't care if you're the man or the woman or whoever in the relationship, but like, you have a responsibility to provide. You have responsibilities, and the feeling that you are failing can be downright petrifying and um, staggering, really. And what I would say to that, your other question was, how did you deal with those things? And for one, I have I have one of the most amazing, no, I have the most amazing spouse on this planet. My wife is a trooper. She holds it down, and she is always my positive voice, my positive light. She always speaks life into me. She always speaks best of me. She always speaks encouragement to me. Even when I don't see the way forward, she always reminds me that, you know, between me and God, we're going to figure this out. God's already got it figured out, but I'm going to find the path. And she always reminds me that I'm going to find the way forward. Um, and sometimes it's just being patient. Sometimes you just got to let it cook. You sent out 100 emails last week. You haven't heard anything back. Sometimes you just got to let it cook. You're busy. Other people are busy too. The people you reached out to are also busy. And sometimes you just got to let that cook. And you're going to hear a response eventually. But you have to be patient in letting those seeds grow into something, into fruition. Um, the other part of dealing with the the negative, dealing with the challenges, is knowing where you're going. Keep a vision of where you're going. Write it down, make it clear, make it plain. Look, even if you have to do what I did, and um when I was first starting, I didn't have a physical office anywhere. I didn't have a whiteboard or nothing. But you know what I had? I had a VR headset that I bought years ago as like a birthday gift to myself. I signed up for what is it called? Meta Workspace, where you can have a virtual office and there's a virtual whiteboard in there. And I went into the VR space and I wrote on my whiteboard in virtual reality what my plans were and what I needed to do so that I could write it down, see it on a board, make it plain, and make it clear. And if that's what you got to do, then that's what you need to do. Make your vision clear as to where you are going, because it can be very easy to get, not just, I'm not going to say bumped off course, knocked off course, blown off course from all of the voices, all of the phone calls, all of the noise that tries to take you off your path. You have to be laser focused on where you're going. Um, and the other encouragement that I would throw in there, as I kind of mentioned before, was, you know, don't let the don't let the negatives nag at you, your person. Does that make sense? Um, like I said, I had gone through a lot of loss. I took a series of L's, y'all. And that can mess with you as a person, and it can devalue you. And when you have devalued yourself here, what can happen is you start devaluing your product. You start devaluing everything that you do. And frankly, you can devalue why you're even doing what you're doing. And before you know it, now you don't know why you're doing what you're doing. And that's kind of where I kind of circling back to what I said before, this can break you. It can break you. Um, And so that's how I would answer all of that. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if I just said a whole lot of words, but that is my story. That is kind of, it's not even the whole story. That's just the early story, y'all. But that is where that is where that is how I would answer that question.
Bro, I'm trying to gather everything. I've choked. Like they're not gonna see it, but I've choked, bro. It was real. And what everything you said is Anybody that's an entrepreneur that's starting off with totally understand and feel exactly what you said, but you just like left it out there. And I'll tell you something that was told to me by one of my good friends. And you said you took a whole bunch of L's, right?
Yeah.
One of my good friends told me, and he know who he is because I always bring this up. He said, "You took a lot of L's, right?" You say, "Yeah, I took a lot of L's." Well, you can't spell million without a couple L's. And I was
It's true.
like, bruh. But that's what you're gonna have to do, man. You're gonna have to, and the thing is, whenever you're going through all of that, I'm a firm believer of you're just getting better equipped for the next level of whatever it is you need to do. Right? You're gonna need to be stronger. And God is gonna be like, okay, we're gonna get you in the gym, but not like you
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And bro, you said when I say I was over here like this, like I'm listening because I needed to hear that. So I know somebody else needed to hear that. And it's just, bro, like that was probably the best thing you could have ever said to that question. That was probably one of the best ways I've ever heard that answered, period. Right?
Yeah.
Jeez. And my next question, I was like, okay, so what's my next question gonna be? So what advice so with all of that being said, what advice would you give somebody that wants to start doing the same thing or similar to what you're doing?
Someone who is wanting to start a drone business. So my business is Waypoint UAS. It is a drone services provider. I am a certified uh, drone pilot by the FAA. Advice to someone who is starting out into being a drone service provider would be to identify your vertical. So I like to say there's three main avenues in which drones are utilized, and that there's basically cinematography and marketing, there's real estate, and then there's industrial. And if you are, depending on your background, it may speak to, one or the other. I happen to be one of those oddballs where all three of them make sense to me, and I kind of understand all three. But there's no harm in focusing in on one. In fact, I would recommend that you focus on one. Like I said, cinematography and or marketing. I say that because that can also cover, production, like TV, film production, newscasters, movie production, all those people. You have real estate, that's your realtors, your property assessment, your property management, your um, there's a bunch of property. Oh, well, I'll kind of put that under something else. But then you have industrial, where you have it's kind of a shared space between real estate and industrial, where you have mapping, so um, GIS mapping, as well as like I said, just like mapping, because sometimes people need 3D reconstructions for tax purposes or tax assessment purposes. Drones can actually build 3D twins of a building. I've done several of those, where the drone flies the property, the entire the entirety of the property, and then can stitch together those images to build a 3D reconstruction of the property. So if someone says, oh, well, what's your building look like at this point, or did you have this on your property at this point? You have a 3D snapshot of that actual thing that you can actually spin around and look at and go in, and zoom in and out on. Um, so there's those things. You can get measurements off of those as well. Um, oh, roofing, that's under real estate as well. Industrial side, you have NDT and inspections. You have visual inspections, thermal inspections, lidar inspections, which is laser based. You have some other sensors in there, and that's just all the aerial drones. There's also underwater drones that someone was recently brought up to my attention by a colleague, and I was like, man, I haven't even thought about underwater drones, but that has nothing to do with Part 107 by the FAA, because that's underwater. But that's a whole nother area that I haven't looked into yet, I haven't explored yet. And so my encouragement, my advice would be to identify where you fit, you and your background, where your experience is, and more importantly than probably any of wherever your experience is, but where your connections are, because you need to connect to people. The drone service provider lives and breathes on their connections in the industry, who you know and who you can connect with to work with. And that kind of speaks to a whole nother thing is you are not meant to work with everybody. I don't mean that in a negative way, but like um just not everybody gets what you are doing. Um it's kind of why you get silence sometimes from certain responses, or you get no's from certain responses. And that's not a negative towards that person, it's not a negative towards you. There's just certain people that you are meant to click with and connect with and work with. And sometimes when you get those no's or you get silence, it's easy. I want to encourage that it's don't look at it as like, oh man, I blew it, but just think of it like, "Oh, that was not the right person for me to be working with." Some people prefer iPhone, some people prefer an Android. I would go absolutely crazy if my daily phone was an iPhone.
Hold on,
I
hold on,
just
hold on. Now
I wouldn't
that
make it.
I am an Apple connoisseur. Let's say that.
Sure.
And I will go and not to cut you off, but that is
Uh-huh.
exactly what I was thinking, right? Like
Yeah.
just that small comparisons, versus Android. Like I would, if I had an Android phone, I would probably throw it in river or something like that. Like I would, because I'm so used to like I have a MacBook, I have an iPhone, I have an
Yeah.
Apple Watch, I have an iPad, I have all of these Apple products, and for me, that's like life. But for
Right.
you, and I've seen all of your little gadgets, like I'm like, bro, like I wish Apple had that. If Apple had that, I'll probably get that. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
remember we were, I forgot where we were. I think we was at one of the meetings that we go to, and you put out some. I was like, bro, I'm gonna put all my stuff up. I'm not even going. But
But
no, I ain't gonna. Cause you did too much on that. You know what? I'll just put my stuff to the side here. Won't even talk about nothing about that.
which that's another point that I could bring up. I'll get to eventually. But yeah, from that same standpoint, there's some people who are Apple, there's some people who are Android. There's certain people that you will click and connect with, and there's certain people that you won't. Unfortunately, they're not labeled out there in the world as I'm a this person and I'm a that person. Come work with me. Don't bother working with me. No, I'm sorry. It don't exist and it don't work that way. You just got to go out there and talk to people and find out. And God bless your heart if you're an introvert. But that's how it works. That's how it works. And so, my advice would be to identify what your niche would be. What is your thing? I've been in a cohort where they used to say, "What is your superpower? What is it that you do really well that you identify with, and the people you connect with? Find that, and that's where you should grow from." I'm not saying that's where you have to stay, but that's where you should absolutely, that's where you should put your roots down and grow from there. Um, Was there another question you had on that? I feel like there was
No, no,
another point.
that was the question I wanted to,
Okay.
because that is really helping anybody that would start on this path. That is amazing because it's some stuff that you said. I was like, "Dang, I didn't even know that about the drones, and I thought I knew a little. It's a whole bunch that I got to learn, man." But that was amazing. So my last question, because I know you have to go, is
Sure.
where can people find you? Because you have a plethora. I hope that's the right word. Plethora of knowledge. Like
I
I know
do.
this because we've talked, but people don't understand. Like you have a lot of knowledge. You have a lot of just everything. Like how can people find you? How can they reach out to you? The through few million people I have that's gonna watch this, how can they reach out to you and get in touch with you?
Yeah. So my company's name is Waypoint UAS. Waypoint like on a map, UAS as an unmanned aerial systems. And you can Google it. You can go to the website waypointuas.com. You can shoot me an email evan.hughes@waypointuas.com, or you can shoot me a phone call. It rings my phone, the company phone, it rings all the phones. 346 336 2686. Um, and that's the company phone number. It rings all of the phones, like I said. And you can actually even text that number. It actually receives text messages as well.
Fancy.
Um, but yeah, that's where you can find me. If I don't answer, I might be flying a drone. I will see your phone call while I'm flying my drone. That doesn't mean I'm going to answer your phone call while I'm flying my drone. There's a very short list of people that I will actually answer the call while I have an aircraft in the air. There's a very short list.
Very short. Oh
Um,
my God, man, this was amazing, bro. Like, I'm, I always say, like, oh man, it's probably the best interview I've ever had. But like, the realness of this interview was like no other, right?
yeah,
And I even learned something from here. Like, you don't understand. I needed to hear what you had to say as well, because like there's, how do I put this? Sometimes like we don't understand that other people, there's somebody else that went through the same thing that you're going through, right?
sure,
And it's like sometimes us as humans, us as people, us as men, women, whatever, it's like nobody understands or nobody gets it, or I'm the only one that's this is going through, or whatever the whole case may be. And then when you hear somebody say something that relates to you, you be like, okay, let me listen. Let me listen. Cause
yeah,
obviously I needed to hear that, because you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
when you need to hear something, when you're in a, where not in a good headspace, and you just like, somebody needs to say something so I can feel relative at times. But bro,
yeah,
like, not gonna lie to you, dope, dope, all the stuff that you said, and I want to personally say thank you, because anybody that's watching this, that's whether you're watching it now or you're gonna watch it later, still can relate. At the end of the day, you
yeah.
still can relate to all the stuff that you said. I want to personally say thank you,
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
man, bro. This was amazing. So thank you so much. I'll put all of your where they can reach out to you in the description below. Man, I want to thank you so much for the time that we spent here. You don't know, this helped me. I know it's going to help a lot of other people. Man, just thank you again.
Yes, yes, sir. Anytime. And if you want to have me back and we talk more technical stuff or safety in drones, whatever it is, you want to pick a subject matter, we can dive into it. I'd be happy to.
Thank you. And we'll have you on we gotta have you back again. We gotta have you. But man, thank you again. Thank the fans for watching. Thank you for allowing me to spend a couple hours with you. I want you to have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Thank you, Shamarcus. You too.